Welcome to the Hidden Wealth Coins. Imagine holding a single penny that could change your entire life. Sounds impossible, but history proves it real. Hidden among ordinary wheat pennies are rare dates that shocked the world with unbelievable values. Coins once spent for bread now command fortunes. One small mistake, one perfect condition, one forgotten jar can turn copper into destiny. Check every penny carefully, because your future might already be in your hand today now. First up, the 1955 wheat penny is not just a 1-cent coin, it is a symbol of hidden destiny sitting quietly in drawers, old jars, and forgotten collections across America. At first glance it looks ordinary, brownish, small, and worn by time, yet behind that humble appearance lies one of the most shocking stories in U.S. coin history. This coin has turned ordinary people into legends in the coin world, not because it was made of gold, but because of a tiny mistake that transformed copper into power. If you ever hold the right 1955 wheat penny, you are not holding a coin, you are holding a decision that could redefine your future. Back in 1955, the United States Mint was producing millions of pennies every day, machines running fast, pressure high, and human attention stretched thin. During this rush, something unbelievable happened. One batch of pennies was struck twice, but not aligned properly. The result was dramatic doubling on the date and lettering, bold enough to be seen without a magnifying glass. This was not a small flaw, it was loud, obvious, and unforgettable. The moment this error escaped the mint, history quietly changed, because mistakes like this are never meant to survive. When these pennies first entered circulation, people noticed immediately that something was wrong. The numbers on the date looked thick, shadowed, almost vibrating. 1955 appeared doubled, and the words, "Liberty," and "In God We Trust," showed the same strange echo. Some people thought it was fake, others thought it was damaged, but a few sharp eyes realized they were looking at something rare. These coins were spent for 1 cent, ignored, lost, and traded like pocket change, while carrying a future value no one could imagine at the time. What makes the 1955 wheat penny so powerful is not just rarity, but visibility. Many rare coins require expert tools to identify, but this one announces itself boldly. The doubling is strong, dramatic, and unmistakable. That single visual feature turned it into the most famous error penny ever created. Over time, collectors began hunting it obsessively, and demand exploded. As fewer clean examples survived circulation, prices began climbing, quietly at first, then violently. Condition is where the story becomes intense. A heavily worn 1955 double-die wheat penny is valuable, but a sharply preserved example is a different beast entirely. Coins that escaped circulation early, with strong detail and original color, entered elite territory. As competition among serious collectors grew, prices reached levels that shocked the public. Not because the coin was large or shiny, but because it represented perfection surviving chaos. In high grades, this penny stopped being currency and became an artifact. Stories began spreading of people finding these coins in inherited jars, old piggy banks, and forgotten collections. A single cent suddenly paying for homes, businesses, and lifelong security. These stories weren't fantasy, they were lessons. Lessons about patience, awareness, and understanding value before selling too quickly. Many people made the mistake of selling early, only to watch the same coin resell later for many times more. Timing, knowledge, and restraint separated regret from victory. The reason some people whisper about million-dollar pennies is not because every 1955 wheat penny is worth that much, but because the best examples live in a different universe. Ultra-rare, perfectly preserved specimens, especially those with strong eye appeal, exist in numbers so small that wealthy collectors fight privately to own them. These coins are not sold casually, they are negotiated quietly, protected fiercely, and remembered forever once they change hands. There is also emotional power attached to this penny. It represents a moment where the system failed just enough to create magic. Governments try to eliminate errors, yet collectors live for them. This contradiction fuels the market. The 1955 wheat penny became a legend because it was never supposed to exist, yet it survived. That story alone makes it irresistible to collectors who don't just buy metal, but meaning. Many people still misunderstand this coin and spend it without a second thought. That is why awareness matters. If you ever see a 1955 wheat penny, you don't rush to sell, and you never clean it. Cleaning destroys history, value, and trust instantly. Serious money only respects originality. The difference between life-changing value and disappointment often comes down to one careless move. The market respects this penny because it has proven itself over decades. Trends rise and fall, but the 1955 double-die wheat penny never lost relevance. Each generation of collectors rediscovers it, and each time, demand renews itself. That kind of longevity is rare. It means the coin is not hype, it is foundation. And foundations only grow stronger with time. What truly makes this coin dangerous is ignorance. Someone unaware may sell it cheaply, thinking it's just an odd penny. Someone informed will pause, verify, protect, and negotiate. That pause can mean the difference between pocket money and generational impact. Knowledge turns copper into leverage. The 1955 wheat penny teaches a brutal lesson. Value doesn't always shine. Sometimes it hides in plain sight, disguised as something small and forgettable. History rewards those who look closer. That is why collectors say never underestimate a coin, especially one with a story louder than its size. Even today, new examples still surface. Not often, not loudly, but enough to keep hope alive. Every discovery sends a ripple through the collecting world, reminding everyone that treasure doesn't announce itself, it waits. Somewhere, right now, a 1955 double-die wheat penny could be sitting silently, holding a future its owner hasn't imagined yet. So if you ever come across one, don't rush, don't panic, and don't listen to low offers. Respect the coin, respect the history, and respect the power of patience. Because some fortunes aren't earned by working harder, but by recognizing what's already in your hand. Second up, the 1948 wheat penny may look like a simple copper coin, quiet and forgotten among ordinary cents, but behind its humble surface lies a story that captures the imagination of collectors and dreamers alike. This tiny 1-cent piece was born in an era when the world was rebuilding after war, when economies were fragile and hope was rare. Today, that same coin has become a symbol of hidden fortune, whispered about in collector circles and searched for in dusty drawers, old jars, and inherited boxes. Some versions of this penny carry values that shock the mind, proving once again that greatness sometimes hides in the smallest places. In 1948, the United States Mint produced millions of wheat pennies to keep the economy moving. These coins traveled through countless hands, buying bread, newspapers, and simple necessities. At the time, no one imagined that decades later people would be examining these same pennies under bright lights, their hearts racing at the possibility of holding something rare. The design itself, featuring Abraham Lincoln on the front and wheat ears on the back, symbolized unity, strength, and growth. But within that massive production, a few special pieces emerged that would later ignite obsession. What makes certain 1948 wheat pennies extraordinary is not the year alone, but the subtle variations, mint marks, and occasional striking differences that separate ordinary cents from treasures. Some were produced in different mints, each leaving its own signature on the coin. Others survived in unusually pristine condition, untouched by decades of circulation. When collectors realized how few high-grade examples remained, the value of the best specimens began climbing steadily, transforming pocket change into serious assets. Condition plays a powerful role in this story. A worn 1948 penny that passed through thousands of hands may only whisper value, but a sharply preserved coin shouts potential. Coins that retained their original color, detail, and surface quality became the crown jewels of collections. As collectors competed to own the finest known examples, prices surged into astonishing territory. In the elite world of numismatics, perfection commands respect, and respect commands money. Rumors of million-dollar pennies often circulate online, fueled by excitement and imagination. While not every 1948 wheat penny reaches unimaginable sums, the highest quality rare examples can command remarkable prices that feel unreal to everyday people. Auctions have proven that collectors are willing to pay extraordinary amounts for history captured in copper. A single coin, preserved perfectly from a turbulent era, becomes a time capsule worth fighting for. There are stories of families discovering old coin jars left behind by grandparents, unaware that among the ordinary cents lay something exceptional. A single careful glance turned confusion into shock. People who nearly spent such coins at face value suddenly realized they were holding pieces of history with serious financial weight. These moments remind us that treasure doesn't always glitter, it sometimes hides in the quietest corners of ordinary life. The emotional power of the 1948 wheat penny lies in its connection to history. It was minted during a time of recovery and rebuilding, when nations were reshaping their futures. Each coin traveled through a world learning to breathe again. To collectors, owning such a piece means owning a fragment of that journey. That emotional resonance adds depth to its value, pushing demand beyond logic and into passion. Collectors chase more than metal, they chase stories. The 1948 wheat penny tells a story of survival, endurance, and forgotten worth. As decades passed, fewer pristine examples survived. Some were melted, damaged, or lost forever. Scarcity slowly tightened its grip, and with scarcity came power. The market responded predictably. Prices rose, interest intensified, and legends formed. Yet danger exists in ignorance. Many people still overlook these coins, selling them cheaply or spending them unknowingly. Cleaning a coin, for example, can destroy its value instantly, erasing history with a single careless act. True collectors value originality above shine. A coin's scars, color, and texture tell its journey, and removing that story removes its worth. The smartest collectors pause before acting. They verify, research, and protect what they find. That pause separates regret from reward. A single decision, whether to sell quickly or hold patiently, can change the course of a person's financial future. Knowledge transforms a 1-cent coin into leverage, opportunity, and possibility. The market for wheat pennies has proven resilient over time. While trends shift, truly historic coins remain desirable. The 1948 wheat penny continues to attract attention because it sits at the intersection of history, rarity, and emotional appeal. Every time a high-grade example appears at auction, excitement returns, reminding collectors why this coin matters. Somewhere today, a forgotten collection still waits to be opened. Somewhere, a 1948 wheat penny lies unnoticed, quietly carrying potential beyond imagination. The idea alone fuels dreams. Treasure hunts don't always happen in distant lands. They happen in attics, drawers, and dusty boxes passed through generations. So if you ever come across a 1948 wheat penny, don't rush. Don't underestimate it. Don't surrender it cheaply. Respect its story, its journey, and its possibility. Because sometimes, destiny doesn't arrive in gold, it arrives in copper, quietly waiting for the right eyes to see its worth. Third up. The 1944 wheat penny is one of those coins that looks ordinary at first glance but carries a story so intense that it still shakes the coin world today. It is a small copper cent born during one of the most dramatic periods in human history, when the world was at war and every resource mattered. Yet from that chaos emerged a coin that would later be whispered about as a miracle, a mistake, and for a few lucky people, a life-changing discovery. This penny proves that sometimes destiny hides in plain sight, waiting silently for decades. In 1944, the United States was deeply involved in World War II, and copper was desperately needed for military equipment. Because of this, most pennies in earlier war years were made from steel, not copper. When the mint returned to copper in 1944, it was supposed to be a clean transition. Millions of normal copper wheat pennies were produced, and they flooded into circulation without anyone giving them a second thought. At that time, nobody imagined that a handful of extraordinary coins would escape the system and rewrite history. What makes the 1944 wheat penny legendary is not just its date, but the rare exceptions hidden within that year. A very small number of pennies were struck on the wrong metal or with unusual characteristics that were never intended to exist. These coins slipped through unnoticed, spent like normal cents, lost, rediscovered, and eventually recognized for what they truly were. When collectors realized what had happened, the shock was real. The idea that a wartime mistake could survive and surface decades later electrified the numismatic world. Condition turns this story from interesting into explosive. An average 1944 wheat penny has modest value, but a rare variety in exceptional condition exists in a completely different universe. Coins that survived untouched, with sharp detail, strong surfaces, and original character, became objects of obsession. As collectors competed fiercely for ownership, prices climbed to levels that ordinary people found impossible to believe. In elite circles, these coins stopped being cents and became symbols of perfection born from chaos. The whispers of million-dollar value come from the rarest and most exceptional examples known. These are not coins you casually find every day, but when they do appear, they cause shockwaves. Serious collectors, investors, and institutions understand that they are not just buying metal, they are buying a once-in-a-lifetime artifact. The moment such a coin enters the market, it becomes a battlefield of quiet negotiations and intense desire. There are true stories of people unknowingly holding these pennies for years, keeping them in jars, boxes, or inherited collections. Many nearly spent them without a second glance. Others sold too quickly, only to later realize the magnitude of what they let go. These stories serve as warnings and lessons. Knowledge is power in the coin world, and hesitation can be worth more than speed. The emotional pull of the 1944 wheat penny comes from its connection to survival and sacrifice. This coin was born during a time when nations were fighting for their future. Every piece of metal mattered, every resource was counted. That history is pressed into the surface of the coin itself. When collectors hold it, they feel more than weight, they feel time, struggle, and resilience. Rarity alone does not create legend, survival does. Many coins from that era were melted, damaged, or destroyed. The few that survived perfectly became survivors of history. That survival creates scarcity, and scarcity creates power. Over decades, as fewer top-quality examples remained, demand only increased. The market rewarded patience, preservation, and respect for originality. One of the biggest mistakes people make is cleaning old coins. Cleaning a rare 1944 wheat penny can destroy its value instantly, turning a potential fortune into disappointment. Collectors value authenticity above shine. The marks, color, and surface tell the story of the coin's life. Erasing that story erases trust, and without trust, value disappears. The smartest move when encountering such a coin is to pause. Rushing leads to regret. Careful evaluation, protection, and understanding separate those who gain from those who lose. A single decision, whether to sell quickly or wait, can change the direction of an entire family's future. This is why experienced collectors move slowly and deliberately. The 1944 wheat penny continues to command attention because it has proven itself over time. Fads come and go, but true historical rarities remain desirable. Every generation of collectors rediscovers this coin, and every rediscovery renews demand. That consistency is what gives the coin its long-term strength and legendary status. Somewhere today, a forgotten collection still exists, untouched and silent. Somewhere, a 1944 wheat penny rests without knowing the future it carries. That possibility fuels dreams across the world. Treasure hunting isn't always dramatic. It can be as simple as opening an old box and looking closely. If you ever come across a 1944 wheat penny, don't underestimate it. Don't rush to sell it for a small amount. Don't ignore its story. Respect its history, its rarity, and its potential. Because sometimes, a single cent holds the power to change a fortune overnight, not through luck, but through awareness. Fourth up. The 1935 wheat penny is one of those coins that quietly survived history without asking for attention, yet today it stands as a powerful reminder that value is not always obvious. At first glance, it looks like nothing more than an old brown cent, the kind people overlook every day. But behind that modest appearance is a coin tied to hardship, recovery, and patience. For collectors who truly understand its story, the 1935 wheat penny is not just money. It is a witness to an era and, in rare cases, a gateway to unimaginable wealth. When this penny was minted in 1935, America was still recovering from the Great Depression. Life was hard, money was scarce, and every cent mattered. These coins passed through countless hands, used for survival rather than savings. People spent them without hesitation, unaware that decades later some examples would be carefully examined, protected, and admired. The irony is powerful. A coin born in struggle later becoming a symbol of opportunity. Millions of 1935 wheat pennies were produced, but time is selective. Most were worn down, damaged, lost, or destroyed. Only a small number survived in exceptional condition, untouched by heavy circulation. These survivors are the ones that draw attention today. In the world of coin collecting, survival is everything. A coin that looks ordinary but remains well-preserved becomes extraordinary simply because time failed to erase it. Condition is where the story of the 1935 wheat penny becomes intense. A heavily worn example may carry history, but a sharply preserved coin carries potential. Pennies with strong details, clean surfaces, and original character stand far above the rest. As collectors began to compete for the finest known examples, prices steadily rose. Over time, the gap between common and exceptional widened dramatically. Some whispers of extreme value come from the rarest situations, where a 1935 wheat penny appears in unusually high condition or with special characteristics that set it apart. These are not everyday finds. They are the kind of coins that cause collectors to pause, recheck, and reassess everything they thought they knew. In elite collecting circles, such discoveries are treated with quiet excitement, not loud celebration, because true value moves silently. There are stories of people discovering old wheat pennies in family collections, stored away during difficult times and forgotten during better ones. A simple box inherited from a grandparent suddenly becomes a moment of realization. That moment, when someone understands that what they're holding is more than just old copper, is where destiny feels real. Many people regret acting too quickly, selling without understanding the long-term potential. The emotional weight of the 1935 wheat penny adds to its appeal. This coin was part of daily life during one of the hardest periods in American history. It bought food, necessities, and hope. That emotional connection matters deeply to collectors. They don't just buy the coin, they buy the story of endurance pressed into metal. Scarcity grows stronger with time. Every year, fewer high-quality 1935 wheat pennies remain. Some are damaged, some mishandled, some lost forever. As supply quietly shrinks, demand does not fade. Instead, it intensifies. Collectors understand that once a truly exceptional coin is gone, it may never return to the market again. One of the biggest dangers for anyone who finds an old wheat penny is impatience. Cleaning, polishing, or rushing to sell can instantly destroy value. Originality is sacred in the coin world. The surface, color, and even minor imperfections tell the coin's life story. Removing those details removes trust, and without trust, no serious value can exist. The difference between disappointment and opportunity often comes down to knowledge. Someone unaware may treat a rare coin as ordinary. Someone informed will slow down, verify, and protect it. That single pause can mean everything. The coin itself doesn't change, only the understanding of the person holding it does. The 1935 wheat penny continues to attract attention because it represents a bridge between hardship and hope. It survived economic collapse, decades of circulation, and the passage of time. Coins like this don't rely on hype alone. They rely on history, scarcity, and emotional pull. That combination is powerful and enduring. Even today, collectors believe more undiscovered examples exist. Not many, not often, but enough to keep the search alive. Somewhere, a forgotten drawer or box may still hold a 1935 wheat penny waiting to be seen with new eyes. That possibility keeps collectors looking closely at every old cent they find. This is why the 1935 wheat penny should never be underestimated. It may look simple, but simplicity often hides the deepest value. Rushing to sell for a small amount can erase a future opportunity that took nearly a century to form. Patience, awareness, and respect are the real keys. If you ever hold a 1935 wheat penny, remember this: you are holding more than copper. You are holding history, survival, and possibility. Don't let ignorance or haste decide its fate. Because sometimes, a single cent, when understood, has the power to change a fortune overnight. Fifth up. The 1945 wheat penny stands at the edge of history, born at the exact moment when the world was exhaling after years of war. At first glance, it looks like an ordinary 1-cent coin, dull brown, small, and easy to ignore. Yet this penny carries a weight far heavier than its size. It represents the closing chapter of World War II, a time when nations were exhausted, resources were stretched thin, and survival itself felt like victory. Today, that same coin has become a symbol of hidden potential, quietly reminding us that history can reward patience in unexpected ways. When the United States Mint produced wheat pennies in 1945, the country was transitioning from wartime urgency to peacetime rebuilding. Materials were still closely managed, and production was focused on speed and necessity rather than perfection. Millions of pennies entered circulation, passing quickly from hand to hand as people returned to normal life. No one stopped to admire them. No one imagined that decades later, collectors would search desperately for the finest survivors from this very year. What makes the 1945 wheat penny fascinating is not mass production, but survival. Time is ruthless to coins. Most were worn smooth by daily use, dropped, damaged, or lost forever. Only a very small number escaped heavy circulation and remained in exceptional condition. Those survivors became something entirely different from ordinary cents. In the coin world, survival against time creates power, and power creates value. Condition is the turning point where the story shifts from history to possibility. A common, worn 1945 wheat penny is easy to find, but a sharply preserved example is not. Coins that retain strong details, clean surfaces, and original character are separated from the rest immediately. As collectors competed to own the best examples known, prices rose steadily, and attention intensified. What was once ignored became fiercely protected. Some of the most talked about 1945 wheat pennies are those that appear almost untouched, as if time simply passed them by. These coins feel frozen in history, capturing a moment when the world stood still before changing forever. In high-end collecting circles, such coins are respected not just for their appearance, but for what they represent, rarity created not by intention, but by endurance. The idea of extraordinary value often comes from misunderstanding, exaggeration, and excitement, but it also comes from real experiences. Collectors have seen simple pennies shock auction rooms when the right coin, in the right condition, appears at the right time. While not every 1945 wheat penny carries extreme value, the finest known examples live in a different league, where competition replaces logic and emotion drives decisions. There are countless stories of people discovering old wheat pennies in jars, boxes, and family collections passed down from earlier generations. These coins were saved during uncertain times, forgotten during better ones, and rediscovered decades later. The moment of realization, when someone understands that a simple penny may be far more important than it looks, is powerful and unforgettable. The emotional connection to the 1945 wheat penny adds to its demand. This coin circulated during a moment of relief, reflection, and rebuilding. It touched the hands of people who had lived through loss and uncertainty. That emotional weight cannot be recreated, and collectors feel it when they hold the coin. History gives metal a voice, and this penny speaks quietly but clearly. Scarcity grows stronger every year. Coins are lost, mishandled, cleaned, or damaged, reducing the number of high-quality examples remaining. Meanwhile, interest in historic American coins continues to grow worldwide. This imbalance between shrinking supply and growing demand pushes value upward over time, especially for coins with strong historical identity like the 1945 wheat penny. One of the greatest dangers for anyone who finds an old coin is impatience. Cleaning a wheat penny can destroy its value instantly, removing the very surface that collectors want most. Original color, texture, and even minor marks are part of the coin's story. Once that story is erased, trust disappears, and without trust, serious value cannot exist. The smartest collectors understand one simple rule: never rush. Rushing leads to regret. Careful handling, verification, and patience separate success from disappointment. A single decision, made too quickly, can cost someone an opportunity that took nearly 80 years to form. Knowledge doesn't just protect value, it creates it. The 1945 wheat penny continues to hold attention because it marks the end of an era. It is not just another date in a long series. It represents closure, survival, and transition. Coins tied to meaningful moments in history never lose relevance. They age, they mature, and they grow stronger as symbols. Even today, many collectors believe more exceptional examples remain undiscovered. Not many, not often, but enough to keep people looking closely at every old cent they encounter. Somewhere, a forgotten penny waits in silence, unaware of the attention it would receive if truly understood. If you ever come across a 1945 wheat penny, do not underestimate it. Do not rush to sell it cheaply. Do not let impatience decide its fate. Respect its history, protect its surface, and understand its potential. Because sometimes, a single cent doesn't just tell a story, it has the quiet power to change a fortune overnight. Sixth up. The 1951 wheat penny is one of those coins that hides its power behind simplicity. At first glance, it looks like an ordinary 1-cent piece, the kind people pass over without a second thought. Yet this penny carries a quiet intensity that has captured the attention of collectors for decades. Born in the early years of America's post-war era, It represents stability, recovery, and a nation rebuilding itself. Today, that same penny stands as a reminder that true value doesn't always announce itself loudly. It waits patiently for the right moment to be understood. When the 1951 wheat penny was minted, the United States was stepping into a new chapter. The war was over, industries were expanding, and daily life was slowly returning to normal. Millions of pennies were produced to keep commerce moving, and they flowed freely through the economy. People used them without hesitation, unaware that time would eventually separate the ordinary from the exceptional. What seemed common then would later become meaningful through survival alone. What makes the 1951 wheat penny fascinating is how time reshaped its importance. While millions were struck, only a small fraction survived in high condition. Most were worn down through years of circulation, losing sharp details and original surfaces. A few, however, escaped heavy use and remained remarkably preserved. These survivors became the focus of collectors who understand that rarity is often created not at birth, but through endurance. Condition is where this penny's story transforms from history into opportunity. A worn 1951 wheat penny tells a story, but a sharply preserved example tells a completely different one. Coins with crisp details, strong surfaces, and original character immediately stand apart. As collectors competed to own the finest known examples, demand intensified. Over time, these coins moved far beyond face value and entered serious collecting territory. Some of the excitement surrounding the 1951 wheat penny comes from the idea of exceptional examples appearing unexpectedly. In rare situations, coins surface that seem untouched by time, carrying an almost unreal freshness. These pieces attract intense attention because they challenge expectations. In the upper levels of the coin world, such discoveries are treated with respect and caution, because their value is shaped as much by scarcity as by trust. Stories continue to circulate of people discovering old wheat pennies in jars, envelopes, and family collections. Often saved during simpler times, these coins were forgotten as years passed. When rediscovered, they create moments of disbelief. A single penny, once ignored, suddenly demands careful handling and serious consideration. These moments prove how easily value can be overlooked when knowledge is missing. The emotional strength of the 1951 wheat penny adds to its appeal. This coin lived during a period of optimism, when families were rebuilding and futures felt possible again. It passed through hands that believed in progress and stability. That emotional connection matters deeply to collectors, who value not just rarity, but meaning. A coin tied to hope carries a different kind of weight. Scarcity grows silently. Every year, more coins are damaged, cleaned, or lost forever. Each careless act reduces the number of truly desirable examples remaining. Meanwhile, interest in historic American coins continues to grow worldwide. This imbalance, shrinking supply and growing demand, creates pressure that pushes values higher, especially for coins with strong historical identity like the 1951 wheat penny. One of the biggest mistakes people make with old pennies is impatience. Cleaning or polishing a wheat penny may make it look shiny, but it destroys its true value instantly. Collectors want originality, not artificial brightness. The surface of the coin tells its life story, and once that story is erased, trust disappears. Without trust, even the rarest coin loses its power. The difference between regret and opportunity often comes down to awareness. Someone uninformed may sell a rare coin quickly for a small amount. Someone informed will pause, protect it, and seek proper understanding. That pause can be life-changing. The coin itself remains the same, only the holder's knowledge determines the outcome. The 1951 wheat penny continues to hold respect in the collecting world because it has proven itself over time. It is not driven by short-term hype. Instead, it stands on consistency, history, and scarcity. Coins like this don't explode overnight. They mature, strengthen, and quietly grow in importance. Collectors believe that more exceptional examples are still out there, hidden in forgotten places. Not many, not often, but enough to keep the search alive. Every old penny becomes a question mark. Every discovery keeps the dream alive that something extraordinary may still be waiting. This is why the 1951 wheat penny should never be underestimated. It may look simple, but simplicity often hides the deepest potential. Selling too quickly or too cheaply can erase an opportunity that took decades to form. Patience is not just a strategy, it is protection. If you ever come across a 1951 wheat penny, treat it with respect. Don't rush. Don't ignore its story. Don't let impatience decide its fate. Because sometimes, a single cent, when truly understood, has the quiet power to change a fortune overnight.